Gonna kick this bad boy off. All right. So, hello and welcome. Welcome to today's, I guess, chat. I don't know what you want to call it. Today's discussion about the mindset of an entrepreneur. I also have reserved this time to answer questions in regards to yesterday's podcast that we dropped yesterday. Episode number 6. So if you haven't listened to the podcast, I highly recommend that you go ahead and listen to it. It was really good. And so I invite you to listen to that. But and I'm going to save some time after we chat to answer any questions. But for those of you who don't know me, who maybe are just joining me for the first time here on Facebook, we are live on Instagram and YouTube and LinkedIn. I want to welcome you. My name is Monique Nicole, and I am the founder and creator of a coaching program called Employee to CEO, as well as a podcast that we recently just launched. Gosh, it hasn't even been, it's been 7 weeks. And so I'm really excited about uh, this talk that we're going to have today. This is something that I'm starting that's kind of new. I've done this before, but where I basically just come on, a couple times a week or once a week and teach you something about and share something about entrepreneurship, about transitioning from becoming, from an employee to becoming an entrepreneur and just really becoming the best version of yourself. I feel like we're all on this journey of trying to, become the best version of ourselves and live our best lives in the best way possible, doing God's purpose and what He's gifted us to do. And so I want to just help be that bridge and bridge that gap for you. So I have some exciting stuff I want to talk about today, and we're going to jump right in because I know maybe some of you are on your lunch break. And so I just want to first just thank you for joining me. And if you are watching the replay, enjoy the replay. But today's topic really is about how do you cultivate and create an an entrepreneurial mindset. And in addition to that, I think one of the things I want to talk about is, also how do you transition from having an employee mindset to an entrepreneurial mindset, right? Because I find that I've been coaching since 2016. Um, in my time and years of coaching, and even in my own personal entrepreneurial journey, a lot of times people get into entrepreneurship and become an entrepreneur without doing the mindset work that's really necessary for them to be successful. And that's usually typically because they've never been taught, right? So what happens is, they're working their job, you're working your job, and you decide to start your own business. You start the business, it takes off, right? You're making some money. And so you talk with your family and you guys decide that, okay, you're going to go full force, right? Or maybe you're still in transition. That could be possible too. And you are trying to navigate this life of entrepreneurship with the mindset of an employee. And it just does not work. It just does not work. And it doesn't serve you. And I find that a lot of people, when they finally make that which is what the podcast that I dropped yesterday is all about. Like, how do you know when it's time to make that leap from leaving your job, right? A lot of times when they do make that leap, that, it's like, oh my gosh, when the storm comes and when things happen in their business, you have no idea how to handle it. Like, your mindset is not built. You have not built the muscle to withstand the storms that come as an entrepreneur. And that is why I truly believe that a lot of businesses fail in the first couple of years, because it's like being a track Olympic winner, right? In runner, and then you go try and win a gold medal or an Olympic medal in swimming, right? Just because you're an athlete, just because you are used to training, doesn't mean that you've trained the way that an a swimmer needs to train, right? Swimmer needs to know how to hold their breath, right? For a long period of time. Whereas, a runner needs to know how to have speed, right? Two different, now they're both athletes, but two different sets of skill sets. And what happens is employees try to go into entrepreneurship with the skill sets, that they have or that they've developed as an employee. And it just does not work. So I want to help you bridge that gap. All right. So I want to kind of first start by just really helping you understand how powerful the mind truly is. Right. And there's this study that I read, and I'm going to put it up on the screen. And it says that our minds aren't passive observers, simply perceiving reality as it is. Our minds actually change reality. And this is by Ali Kroom. She's a PhD director of Stanford University at their Mind and Body Lab. And I really found this to be powerful because I think a lot of us feel like, and this just really comes from just like not studying the mind and not knowing the mind and how powerful it is. And also, if you are, a believer, if you're a Christian, and you read your Bible, right, there's a lot that God has to say about the power of your mind. But what I think a lot of people who may not have any of that context, I think a lot of times, you just think like, okay, I'm just going to go through life and think about things as they come, right? And we don't really realize like how many thoughts come into our mind and how powerful they are if you do not know how to control them. And so I love this quote because she says that, our minds actually change the reality, meaning we have the power, right, to manage our mindset and create the life that we want. And I think a lot of people don't realize like how powerful that is, right? And I will tell you, I was in that place where years ago when I had no concept of how powerful the mind was, right? I was on my spiritual journey. I was learning about God. I was reading my Bible, but I hadn't really fully grasped it, right? And if anybody is feeling like this, or you feel like, maybe you're on this journey of like feeling like, okay, I'm trying to control my thoughts. I'm trying to control my mind. Just tap something in the chat. Sorry, one second. Just tap something in the chat. Okay. Just say, just I don't know, type comment mindset. Okay. Comment mindset. If you are in this place where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't control my mind, right? And so anyway, yeah, I think we just go through life thinking like, oh my goodness, okay, I'm just gonna take things as they come, like life is life. You know how now people are saying like life is lifing, right? And that's all true. Like that is all true. The Bible does talk about like, there's no one that is not going to be faced with adversity. It just everyone, right, is going to face it. We're all going to go through things. But what we have to realize is that we really do have a lot more power than we think, depending on kind of what your perspective is. And so I love this quote. And she says that we're not just passive observers, meaning we don't have to just go through life and take things as they hit us and, our mind be all over the place, like, and not just perceive reality as it is, meaning take what we get, right? We don't have to do that. And the Bible talks a lot about that. I'm actually going to share a scripture with you, but she says that our minds actually change the reality, meaning that your mind and the way that you manage your mindset has the power to create your reality. Now that's powerful. I don't know about you, but that's powerful. It gives me hope. It inspires me to know that like I have the power to change my mind, right? And create the life that I want. And there's another scripture I want to share with you. And it says that as someone thinks within himself, so is he, right? And that just really resonates with me a lot because I feel like we don't always understand that the power of your mind and your thoughts is what will create the person that you are. So if you want to become a certain type of person, if you want to become an entrepreneur, right? Your thoughts need to be surrounded around that. Like, what type of entrepreneur do you want to become? What do you want to do? Right. And you have to be able to envision that, because remember, your thoughts are what creates your reality. And so I love this. And there's another scripture I want to share with you. And it says, do not copy the behavior of customs of the world or of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think. Now, oh, this is so good, because the problem that we all face is that we live in this world and we don't have a choice, right? We're in this, on this earth, we're in this world together, right? And there's so many cultural influences, right? You hear culture says this, culture says do that. You go on Instagram and the new thing is this, right? And so a lot of times people can get caught up in chasing those things and chasing those lifestyles and chasing those aspirations that they see in front of them, instead of really focusing in and saying, okay, what do I want? What do I want for my life? And what I want my life to look like? Because what you think about is what's going to shape that, right? And so that's why the scripture says that let God transform you into a new person, right? And so when we're shifting from becoming, wanting to be an employee to be an entrepreneur, you literally have to become a new person, starting with your mind, right? So that it starts by changing. It says becoming a new person by changing the way you think. So that means that your thoughts are going to create the new person, right? You can't become a new person until you change the way you think, right? So I think that's so important to really, take in and understand. And so really the question then becomes is how do we create a healthy entrepreneurial mindset so we can shape our reality, create the life that we want, right? And so that we can become that person that we want to become, right? And so I want to break this down into a couple steps, and this is not going to be long. We're gonna get right to the point. And then I'm going to leave you with some tools that's going to help you, right, to start this process. Okay. So the first thing is you first have to ask yourself, what do you want? That is the very first step. And this is the first thing that I actually teach in all of our courses in the Employee to CEO program. And I talk about, I teach you how to get clear on what you want. And let me tell you, I cannot tell you how many times I meet people and people join, the program or some of our courses, and I have conversations with, with some of our members, and I ask the question like, do you know what you want? Like, have you asked yourself? And most people tell me they've never asked themselves this question. And most people go through life really not asking themselves, or you may think it, you may see what culture is putting in front of you to make you think that's what you want. But I'm talking about, like, have you ever sat down, removed all the distractions, turned the computer off, turned the music off, turned your phone off, got a notepad, got a pen, okay? Like, I keep my notepads here. Like, I have like 4 on my desk. And that's because I just have creative ideas that come to me all the time, and I always need to have something to write down. But have you ever, like, taken time, okay? And I mean like an hour, a couple of hours, or even a weekend. Heck, I took a whole vacation, but that's a whole nother story. If you know my story, I took a whole 7 days and went to a whole nother country so I could get clear on what I wanted. Right now, you don't have to go to that extreme. Like, you could take a couple hours, you can go to the park, go to Starbucks, I don't know, whatever it is. But have you ever taken the time to really ask yourself, what do you want? And when I mean, what do you want? I'm talking about money. How much money do you want to make? Do you want to be wealthy? Do you want to just be satisfied? Like, some people are like, I don't want to be rich. I just want to be able to pay my bills. Okay. Whatever you want, right? Your house, your living arrangements, logistics. Where do you live? Where do you want to live? Do you want to live in the Maldives? Do you want to live in Tennessee? Do you want to live in New York City? Like, I can tell you, when I was in my 20s, I wanted to I knew I wanted to live in the city, right? I wanted to leave home. I grew up in Virginia, in a small town area in Virginia, and I was like, deuces, okay? I was ready to go. And I told my parents that, and they thought I was crazy at first until I got a full scholarship to my university in London, England. Yes, I left home at the age of 17. My mother got on a plane, took me over. She was there for maybe 3 to 4 days, helped me get into my apartment. There was maybe the square footage of my office today, and said, "All right, this is what you wanted. I'm going to miss you." And I know she cried the whole way home. But I knew what I wanted, and I wanted to go away to college. I wanted, right, to see something outside of my backyard. Now, that's not everybody what everybody wants. So you have to know what you want, right? And it was the best decision I ever made. I had a blast, right? I met so many great people. Like I traveled the world. Like it was an amazing experience, right? So you got to know logistically, where do you want to live? What do you want to do? How do you want to be healthy, right? Do you want to be fit? Maybe you want to just be healthy and get rid of any disease that you might have in your body, right? What type of relationships do you want to have, right? What type of friendships do you want to have? When I tell you there was a period where I was praying for God to send me the right relationships, for God to send me the right people in my life to support me as I was going through my entrepreneurial journey, to bring the right resources, the people who have the mindsets and the skills and the knowledge that I needed to help move my business forward. I pray for that, right? So you have to know, but you can't ask for what you don't know that you want, right? Faith, right? That's something I'm always asking God to give me more of, right? I learned this lesson when I was and I tell this story. You probably heard me tell this story if you have been on one of these with me. But it's such a powerful story, and it's one that I'll never forget. It really is imprinted in me, and I'm going to make it short. But um, I remember I was interning at Universal Music Group, which is a big record label in New York City. I fought for that job. Like when I tell you, I wasn't supposed to get that job because there was so many people. Everybody wanted to be an intern at a record label, right? Like that's the best job ever. And when I tell you, I got on that train, I stayed at my aunt's house in Brooklyn, New York City. And I didn't even have the job. And this is how faith works. This is why I'm saying you have to know what you want, because I was so determined to get this internship. I moved to New York City in the summer of while I was in college. I moved to my aunt's house in Brooklyn. She, lovingly welcomed me. God rest her soul. She's passed away now, but she lovingly welcomed me into her home. I was, living in, staying in her home, and I would get on the train. I didn't have the internship yet, right? Okay. I would get on the train every morning, take the C train down to like 50 something street and get on the train and show up at Universal Music Group. Now, let me tell you, you know, if you've ever tried to get into a record label and you don't know anybody, you know that the gatekeepers are strong, okay? And so, and the reason why is because people are always trying to go up and give them their demo tapes, or trying to get up to the office so, they can give their demo tape. And they're always trying to solicit their music unsolicited or unrequested. And so they have like a gate downstairs in the lobby. So you walk into the lobby and they have like a front desk, and like you cannot go on the elevators to go up in the building unless you know somebody, unless you're dropping a name. And so I had did my research. I knew who was working there. I knew who the VP was of this department and this department. And so I think I found the department that I wanted to work for, which was marketing and publicity. And I found out who the person was. Now I didn't know the person, but I found out the name, right? And I don't know. I think I had this book. It was like a book of like music industry execs, or I don't know. Anyway, I did my research. And so long story short, I would go up there like every day and I would be like, yes, I'm here to see such and such right now. I don't have a meeting with this person, but I'm here to see them. Okay. So I said it with confidence, and they would let me up. And so that was kind of like the first level, right? I got past the first gatekeeper. Then I got to the office, the main floor. And I would, I would go into the office, the front lobby of the department of the floor. And because like they had like different floors depending on what department you worked in for the label. And so I would go into the front lobby and I'd say, yeah, like I'm here to, see such and such, to inquire about the internship. And I ended up talking to someone, the person who I had done my research on, and I literally like landed my interview, okay, just by being bold and knowing what I wanted, okay. And so I got this interview, had the interview, they told me come back. They ended up giving me the internship, got the offer, and when I tell you I was so disappointed. And this is why you should be careful what you ask for, because when they sent me the offer letter back, I was so excited. But at the same time, I was a little disappointed because it wasn't a paid internship. And all that they were providing was a train ticket, like a metro ticket. Okay. The ticket at the time cost $2.50 one way. Right. So I was thankful I didn't have to pay to get to work, but that's it. And I said, you know what? I asked for this. I've prayed for this. I'm going to be grateful for it. And I showed up every day. Like before everybody showed up, I was there. And before everybody left, I was still there. And it was such a learning experience. And I remember working for, at the time, she was I think like I don't know if she, no, she wasn't VP. I think she was like the assistant publicity manager or something like that. Or yeah, something like that. Anyway, my manager, she worked in publicity. She was a manager of publicity. And um, I remember one day I was doing my work and the guy who was like head of radio came over and to my boss at the time, her office. And I had like a little desk on the side that she had set up for me so I could do my work next to her desk. And so anyway, he comes up to her desk and he's like, "Hey, can I borrow your intern for a little while?" And so, my manager, she didn't play no games. So she was like, "Yeah, you can, what do you need her to do?" And he's like, "Oh, I just need her to do some phoners." And phoners are like when you call and set up interviews, oversee phone interviews with some of the artists on the label. And so she's like, "Yeah, she could do that. That's fine." So I go and I'm going like all afternoon, right? And finally, I finished. Now, I probably worked like 5 hours and I worked right through lunch. And when I tell you, I was so hungry, like my stomach was growling. Okay. I was so hungry. But at the time, I was young and, I wanted this job. I didn't want to like ruffle any feathers. And so I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I just kind of pushed through. And I got back to my desk and it was probably like, I want to say like maybe like 4 o'clock or so. It was close to the end of the day. And I got back to my desk and my boss at the time, she looks at me and she's like, "How was it?" And I said, "Oh, it was fine." And I said, "I'm a little hungry, but I said, it's fine." And she said, no, I didn't even say I was hungry. I think I just said, yeah, it was fine. And she looked at me and she said, "Did you have lunch?" And I didn't I felt like I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to throw this guy under the bus. But inside I was like, no, I didn't have lunch. Thinking like, no, he didn't feed me. But she's like, "Did you have lunch?" And I said, "No, I said, I was just working and I didn't want to ask." And she was like, "Excuse me? What do you mean you didn't want to ask?" Like, first of all, like he borrowed you from me. Like, you know what I mean? Like we did him a favor. She was like, "He didn't offer to give you lunch?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Hold on." She picks up her phone. I'm using my phone, but she picks up her phone and she's like, and I forgot, I think his name was Bobby. I'm not gonna say his last name, but his name was Bobby at the time. And she's like, "Bobby," she's like, "Did you borrow my intern and not feed her? And she worked for you for like 5 hours?" Like she was pissed. And I don't know what he said on the phone, but all I know is I heard his footsteps coming down the hallway. And he was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I really didn't I didn't mean anything. She didn't say anything." And she's like, "That's not her job to say something. Like you should have offered." Right. And he was like, "Okay, whatever." She's like, "No, you're gonna buy her lunch." And then she turned around and she had like this drawer behind her and she would keep menus because she would buy me lunch and stuff and buy us lunch often. And she was like, pick out a menu, pick out what you want, and give it to him. And so he just stood there. So I picked out the menu and I gave it to him. And I said, I told him what she was like, tell him what you want. And so I told him what I wanted. I looked at the menu, told him what I wanted. And and she was like, okay. She was like, can you bring your credit card? She was like, and I'll call it in. And he's like, all right, no problem, no problem. And after that, after he walked away, and I really appreciated this because she waited until he walked away. She wasn't like gonna demasculate him. But after he walked away, she turned to me and she said, and looked me in my eyes, and she said, don't you ever not ask for what you want, especially if somebody's asking you to do something for them and this is an essential need, like you need to be able to eat lunch. She's like, there's no sweat labor going on over here. She was like, you need to open your mouth and ask for what you want. And I said, well, I was afraid, and she's like, no. She's like, you don't need to be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of in asking what you want. Like, this is your right. Like, you're working here. You have a right to take a lunch break. He has no right to work you through your lunch break. Ask for what you want. And so I always remembered that. And it just gave me like this courage and this confidence to just know that it's my right to ask for what I want. And so I wanted to share that story because I think a lot of times people don't ask the question, what do I want? Because they don't feel like they're worthy. And that's a whole nother thing. But I want you to get into the habit of asking what you want and asking yourself. And now, in my instance, it was asking someone else, telling them what I want. But you first have to start with yourself because you can't tell somebody what you want unless you know yourself, right? So I want you to really do that. And this is really the first step in creating this healthy, strong mindset, is just getting clear on what you want. Because once you're clear on what you want, then you can move to step number two, which is recreating your beliefs. Now, remember, I said the reason why I didn't ask for him to give me lunch or even just can I stop and take a lunch break? I would have even went out and bought my own lunch. But the reason why I didn't ask because I didn't think I was worthy enough. Now I was 17 years old. Like I hadn't even, got into becoming the person that I am today. But I didn't think I was worthy, and I didn't think that I just felt like, it would be too much, which is crazy now that I look back, but I didn't think I was worthy. I didn't believe that I was worthy enough to ask to stop and take a lunch break. And that's just the truth. And so a lot of times we are still carrying these belief systems that for whatever reason, they may be pathological, maybe from your childhood, maybe from adult experiences, negative experiences that you've had, that you don't feel worthy or you don't believe in yourself. And that is what hinders most entrepreneurs, right? And being successful is that you don't believe, right? So, one of the things you have to do is once you're clear on what you want, now you have to recreate your beliefs that you're worthy to have those things. So, the question that you want to ask yourself is what do you feel fearful about, or what are you doubtful or worried about? Okay. I'm going to say that again. If you're on Facebook and or YouTube or LinkedIn, you'll see this on the screen. But basically, it says what the question you need to ask yourself is: what are you fearful of, or doubtful, or worried about? Okay, so for me, in this example that I just shared, I was worried about honestly getting fired. Now that was never going to happen, but that's because of my belief. Now I don't know where that came from, but I was worried about losing my job and speaking out of turn, right? I felt like, and this is what I said to my boss, I was like, I didn't feel like I had the right to, like, I felt like I would be speaking out of turn, right? And she had to correct that in my mindset and say, like, no, you're not speaking out of turn. Like, you are like, your paperwork says that as an intern, you are entitled to a 30-minute lunch break. I even think it was an hour, right? So how dare him? Like, you're entitled to that. And there's things that we're entitled to, right? As children of God, as, just being on this earth, we're entitled to certain things, right? And so we have to know that in ourselves. And a lot of times that requires us to recreate our belief systems. So if there's anything that you're fearful about, or you're doubtful about, or you're worried about, I want you to really check it and ask yourself, why do I feel this way? And what are those things that I feel that about? Because those are the things that you're going to need to work on recreating your beliefs. Now, you may be asking, okay, well, how do I do that, Monique, right? How do you recreate your belief system? Well, it's a process, but it first starts with writing down those things that you're fearful about, you're doubtful about, or you're worried about. That's going to unveil what the things are that you feel like you're not worthy of, or you don't believe that you're worthy to have, right? And then what you want to do is you want to take those things and you want to recreate. And that's why I say recreate that belief or that thought around that thing. So let's just say you're fearful about, or you're doubtful about your business being successful when you start it. Okay. Let's just say that's the thing that you're doubtful about. Well, you may be playing in your mind, well, you know what, the business is never going to work. Or, you know what, I'm doubtful because, I've never started a business, or I'm doubtful because, I've never worked with a coach to teach me how to start a business. Or maybe you're doubtful because, maybe you've tried before and it was unsuccessful. There could be a million reasons why you're doubtful, right, about starting your own business. But what you want to do is take those doubts and those thoughts that you're doubtful about, and you want to recreate them in a positive way. So you want to recreate them to say, you know what, I may be doubtful of because I failed in the past, but this time it's going to work. You see how I changed that negative thought to welcome art and design. You see how I changed that thought to I'm never gonna start. I'm not gonna be successful because I wasn't successful the first time, or I failed in my business the first time. Right now, you recreate that thought to be positive, and you say, well, just because it didn't work before, it doesn't mean it can't work again. Right? So you want to recreate those thoughts. And then once you've done that, then you want to create and design your daily practice. Because here's the thing, as powerful as the mind is, right? You have conditioned your mind and you don't even know it to date, right? All of the thoughts that you have, all of the negative self talk that we tell ourselves, right? Especially if you've been telling it to yourself over and over again for many years or a very long time, right? You have already conditioned your mind. So, part of like recreating those beliefs is going to help recreate your mindset, right? And the way that you think. And then the other thing is you have to put it in practice. So this is not something you can just do every day. It's like learning how to ride a bike. You have to learn how to control your thoughts, right? And that is like a muscle. It's not something that just comes, right, easily. So one of the things you have to do is you have to design your daily practice so you can make it a habit. You can get into the habit. Good morning, right? So some of the ways that you can do that, and this is the way that I teach our members in the coaching program, my coaching program, is through several different activities that you do every single day habitually, like you brush your teeth. Okay, like you wake up and take a shower, or you brush your teeth. These are the things that you're going to do every single day to get in the habit and to build that muscle of managing your thoughts and your mindset. Okay, so the first thing is you're going to pray. If you are, a Christian believer, whatever faith, religion, I don't care, but prayer, right? Connect to to God, connect to your God, whatever um, you believe in, the higher power, whatever you want to call him, right? Prayer, connect, okay? Because that is where you're going to get the opportunity to put your request at the altar, to put your request upon God, right? So you're going to start with prayer. And then meditation is the second thing you're going to do. Now, a lot of people meditate and that's great. But I truly believe that meditating comes from, or I think the benefit of meditating, let me put it this way, the benefit of meditating is so that you can hear from God what you just prayed about, right? So when you pray, that's like outwardly, like you're having a conversation with God, right? You're putting your desires right out there. You're sharing that with Him. And then meditation is so that you can be still and that you can listen. Right. And so a lot of times we're like, well, I don't know what to do. You know, how people say, well, when you're trying to ask what to do and people tell you, well, pray about it. And you're like, well, okay, well, I'm going to pray about it. But how do I still know what to do? Right. Because you still have to hear and know and have the wisdom to make the right decision. So the meditating is what helps you to hear. Right. And God shows and speaks through so many different ways. It may be you actually hearing his voice. It may be, him giving you a nudge or a thought or something that just comes in your spirit and you're like, oh, I feel strongly about this. This must be God. Like there's different ways that he talks to us. But meditation is that it's almost like that gateway for you to connect with God. Okay. And then the other thing you want to do is visualization. And basically what that is where you are, it's like another form of meditation, but you're taking it to the next level. You're not just being still and listening, right? But you are visualizing the things that you want. Now, remember the first step that I mentioned was you have to get clear on what do you want, right? And this is why. Because how can you visualize something that you don't know that you want? If you haven't even thought about it, right? Put it in your mind that, yes, I want this thing. How in the world can you visualize it? You won't know what to visualize, right? So you see how this is like a domino effect. So visualization is a second thing where you sit and you think about all the things you've listed that you want, but you just don't think about them. And I think this is where people miss the mark. Like you may have heard about visualization, you may have tried it, but what makes visualization powerful is you not only think about the thing that you have set your mind on and that you want, but you experience it. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you a perfect example. I literally visualized my car into existence, my very first car. um, I had no plans to buy like a brand new car, but I ended up buying a brand new 2012 Mercedes Benz right off the showroom. I lie to you not. I was living in New Jersey. I was going car hunting because I had literally drove my mom's hand-me-down car, which I'm so thankful for to this day. I rode that thing till the wheels fell off, like almost literally. Like I couldn't even sell the car. I had to actually ended up donating the car to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. True story. Um, there was no the AC had stopped working, and that was kind of like the last straw for me because summertime in New Jersey, the windows down, it's just not gonna cut it. So anyway, and I did ride through. I did experience a few summers with no AC, and it was just not fun. So anyway, I was like, okay, and I was making six figures on my job. I was doing very well. Like there was no reason why I had to stay in this like car that just was just suffocating me in the summer. Okay, but um, so I said, I'm gonna buy a car, right? But I was very frugal with my money. So I wasn't planning to buy a brand new car, especially not a luxury car. But I had set my eye on and I had said to myself, what do I want? Like, if I really could have the type of car that I want, what do I want? And I've always loved Mercedes Benz. I've always loved been a Mercedes Benz kind of girl, right? So I just literally, I remember I was like, okay, I'm going to just go to the Mercedes Benz dealership just for, giggles, just to take a look and just to dream a little bit, right? And prior to that, I had actually been visualizing this car that I wanted. And I remember visualizing during my visualization, I remember like envisioning the car, and it was like a brown kind of color. It was like a and I love brown. Like I don't know, I like neutral colors. It was like a really like a chocolate brown, but it had like a little bit of a iridescent tint to it. And I was like, okay, I visualized the color. I visualized like walking into the showroom, talking with one of the sales reps. I visualize getting into the car, and I visualize it having uh leather seats, and like I visualize turning on the heat, the heat function, and making the seats warm. Like I literally visualize like what it would feel like. And I remember even in my visualization saying like I wanted to feel like I'm floating when I'm driving. And when I tell you, baby, I went to this car dealership just one afternoon, happenstance, was not planned, and went in there, and everything I visualized, when I tell you, it was like a tape recorder that was like I was like I felt like I was being punked. I was like, I'm not even supposed to be here. But everything that I visualized over time was happening in real time. Okay. Remember what that quote says? It says it actually changes your reality, your mind. Well, my mind had created my reality, right? And so I go in, I'm looking around, and he's trying to show me all these other cars. Um, and I'm like, let me look at what you have on the showroom. So I'm looking on the showroom, and I know he's probably thinking she probably can't afford this car, right? I'm a young Black woman. Right. And I wasn't dressed to like go buy a car. You never should be dressed to go buy a car because you don't want people to think you have money. But my point is, like, I know he was probably thinking, like, okay, she's probably gonna waste my time. Let me show her some of these used Mercedes Benz here back in the back. Right. And that's what he was trying to do. And I was like, no, I want to see this, I want to see the cars on your showroom. And so he took me to the showroom, and I looked at a couple of cars, actually looked at a few SUVs, and I was like, no. And then I saw my car. It had 12 miles on it. Okay. And they were all from test driving. I got in the car, and let me tell you, the color was brown. I got in the car, it had the iridescent tint. And he was like, okay, this is what you like? And he comes over and he gets in the passenger seat, and he says, do you want to take it for a ride? And I was like, oh, can we do that? It's in the showroom. Can we do that? He's like, yeah, you can just lift the doors up. So he lifts the doors up, and we take it for a ride, and it literally felt like I was floating. Everything I had visualized, I had created in that moment. And that day, I got my new car. Okay. And I loved my car. Okay. The only reason why I actually ended up getting rid of it is because I moved to New York City, to Brooklyn, and I just wasn't taking it with me because I had a really bad experience. I went to a barbecue, came out the barbecue one evening um, uh, that night, and someone had sideswiped me. Literally, my whole car was tore up. Like I was like in tears. the the light was hanging, like it was all scratched up. My rims were scratched up. I think it was a drunk driver, honestly. And obviously, we were in the barbecue, and it was like an evening barbecue, West Indian barbecue. So it was at night. And so, nobody saw anything, of course, and I don't know who did it. So anyway, my insurance, good thing I had really good insurance. They fixed it and everything. But after that, I was like, no. And then I had to keep parking on the other side of the street. And if you know New York City, it's like you're actually better off without a car. So I ended up getting rid of the car. But I say all that to say that visualization is super powerful, but you got to know what you want. Okay. And when you know what you want, you can get it. All right. And then the other thing is journaling and affirmation. So journaling is great. I am not a big journaler. I do journal, especially when there's things that I need to like feel like I need to like data dump. I need to get it off my mind. Right. Because the other thing is you want to also learn how to have a clear mind. Right. Whatever it is that you're thinking about, if it is tormenting you or bothering you, you need to figure a way to release it. And journaling is that thing to help you do that. Okay, so journaling, and then affirmations. And I love affirmations. I typically do them in this order. So I do prayer, meditation, visualization, journaling, and affirmations in this order because it's just a nice flow. But affirmations are great because it just helps reinforce those beliefs, right? Those beliefs that you recreated, those positive thoughts that you replaced with negative thoughts, it helps you to affirm those and really help you to believe them, right? Because a lot of times we don't always believe what we are truly gifted to have and designed to have, and it takes a little bit of time to go through this daily practice to start to truly believe these things. So this is what you want to do. This is step 3. You want to design your daily practice and do it every day. And I'm contemplating on doing something where we kind of do this as a community, where we wake up in the morning. I typically wake up around 5, 6 a.m. 5 a.m. I usually do go through my daily practice. And so I'm thinking about maybe doing something in a more communal way. So if this is something you're interested in, if you want me to help you guide you through this process so you can make it a practice for yourself, uh, leave me a comment, post a comment, say, yes, just post daily practice if that's something that you want. And I will work on getting that set up for us. Okay, so really the question becomes, what does a healthy entrepreneur mindset look like, right? And so before I want to go into this, I want to share with you a quick story, really quickly. And I want to share this with you because I want you to really take heed of how important this is, right? I can tell you, and I remember there was a time where I was working a job. I was living in New Jersey. I was working a job, and I had taken this job because it was close to my home and I wanted something where I didn't have to commute. I had been commuting into the city, into New York City for several years, and I was just really exhausted. And I was like, I just want a job that I can drive to in less than 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. And so I took this job. It was with a small company, and it was a husband and wife. I'm not going to say what kind of company it was, but because then people will know who I'm talking about. But because I don't care. But yeah, it was a husband and wife owned and operated business. And that's probably the first red flag that I should have probably noticed. But anyway, they were paying me really well. And it was 10 minutes from my house. It was right, literally not even 10 minutes, right around the corner. And I took this job and I got in there. And have you ever like just immediately like entered a room or entered somewhere and you're like, oh my God, this is something ain't right. Right. That's the feeling I got. But I was in the job. I took the job, and the problem was that, like, the job was fine, but the problem was the wife and the husband. Like, you could tell that they had a lot of issues between each other, that they brought into the workplace. And the wife was very, very insecure in the sense that she was a micromanager. I mean, I had never worked with someone, and I've worked with a lot of people, but I had never worked with someone who just had this obsessiveness to have control. And it was almost like she had already conditioned, like a lot of the other employees were just like, I don't know if they just didn't pay attention to her or if they just got used to working with her, or used to, let me say, used to allowing her to micromanage them and basically control them, because that's really what it was. But it was a really toxic environment. Hey, Ish. What's up, Ish? Yes, Ish. Ish said, I work with you. Yes, and he knows. He knows how I am. So here I am. I'm this chick. I'm coming in like I'm well educated. I'm very confident. I know my stuff. I know I could do the job with my eyes closed. And I'm not like tooting my own horn, but that's really the kind of the energy that I came in with. But I also came in very humble and willing to learn, right? And so, anyway, long story short, this lady was like crazy. Okay. She was cuckoo. And she would like, it was like everything that I did, she would criticize it or she would find fault into it. And I really feel like they were trying to just get their quota up of like hiring minorities, because it was only one other little black guy and she just ran him around. Like if she said go run 10 laps around the corner, he would do it with a smile. Okay, that was the kind of relationship and toxicity that was going on. But anyway, she would find fault with everything that I did. And you know, even when obviously there was nothing wrong. And it was like every week, every month, she was calling me in her office, like to be like, you didn't do this. Right. And I'm like, listen, lady, like, what is your issue? And that's really what I asked her one day. I'm like, what is your issue? And long story short, I was like, I felt like I was in hell because I was looking for another job. I hadn't found anything. So I was like, I can't like work, I can't leave, right? Until I find something else, right? Because you still got bills to pay. And then I also felt like, and then I would, you know, in my mind, I was like, well, just fire me. Like, just fire me. Just let me go. But they wouldn't fire me. She wouldn't fire me. And it was almost like she was trying to torture me. I don't know. But God is so good because lo and behold, I literally was on the verge of just walking out. And I'm not even that type of person. Like, you know, I'm a battle it out and figure it out. But one day I was just like on the verge of walking out. And the day that I was on the verge of walking out, another lady got hired. She was a Black woman and she was a Christian like me. And she got in there and she observed exactly the same thing I observed. So we started going out to lunch and together. And, you know, oh my God, that made her even more mad. Like she used to say, like, you guys can't go out to lunch together. And we would say, oh no, we got it handled already. Someone else is covering it. And it was like she would walk away stomping. And it was like she would have fumes coming out of her ears. Literally, I almost promise you, I think I saw fumes coming out her ears. Um, but this lady like hated us, but she couldn't fire us. And then finally, um, my the other girl who, I mean, we became really close friends. It was just a blessing. And, you know, we were like each other's refuge. Like we would go on lunch together and be like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We got to get out of here. And long story short, she ended up actually leaving and finding another job before I did. And I was like, oh my God, I'm here by myself. And I ended up like just sticking it out. And we just came to a head one day and we were like, she was like, this is not working out. And I was like, thank God, just let me go. And she ended up letting me go. And I ended up obviously finding something bigger and better and moving on with my life. But I tell you that story because um, I remember this was the pivotal moment for me that I was like searching for ways to control my mind and create a healthy mindset while I was working. Because at this time, I had desires to start my own business, but I wasn't, you know, I didn't have everything together yet. So I was very in the infant stages. I had an idea. I wanted to start my business, but I hadn't started it yet. And I remember like driving to work in my new Mercedes Benz, right? The only thing that was like bringing me some peace and thinking like, oh my goodness, I need to figure out a way to control my mind before I step into this office because it was like hell. It really was. It was the most toxic place I have ever worked at. And I later, it's so funny. Let me just finish. Okay. I got to remind me, I have to tell you something. Let me tell you before I forget. So I remember years later running into her at an industry event. And she had gained a lot of weight. And it's so funny because we had mutual friends and I ended up going to an event that was at her home. And I remember her like pulling me aside and being like, I just you know, how you been or whatever, whatever. And I had moved on. It was like water under the bridge for me. Like I don't hold on to stuff because that like I can't hold on to things like that. It doesn't serve me. So I had let that go. But I remember her saying, like, me and my husband were going through a lot of stuff. She started sharing with me. And I always knew I was like, something is wrong. Right. So, in hindsight, like now I know like why that stuff was going on. But anyway, this was the time that really um fostered me to like find a way to learn how to control my mind. And I started like, I don't even know how I started, but I started reading. I started reading my Bible more. I started reading up on like mindset and studying the mindset, understanding how powerful it is. I started, I had where I lived was a very large Indian community. And so I had a lot of Indian friends. And so I started asking them, like, how do you, because I know that they're very heavy into meditation and prayer. And so I started, learning about that. And I remember having these discs. Do you guys remember CDs? I had a CD player in my car. I remember having this CD and I would put it in. It was like an Indian, I don't know. It was somebody, they were Indian. And it was like a mindfulness like meditation that you could, listen to. And when I tell you that thing saved my life, because I would listen to it as I drove into work just to give my mind some peace to, and it also like would say, like, teach you like how to replace your thoughts. Like a lot of things that I've been teaching you today, taught me about like how to take the negative thoughts. So I would be driving into work thinking like, Lord, I don't have to deal with this lady today. I don't have to slap this lady today. I don't want like, I don't want to, like, Lord, if she say something to me, if she look at me wrong, like, all these things, right? All these negative things. And I would listen to this CD and it would help me to reshape and recreate those thoughts. So instead of me saying like, Lord, gosh, what's going to happen today? I would say, Lord, thank you for this job. And today is going to be a good day. No matter what comes against me, no matter what this lady says, no matter what she says to me, no matter what she does, um, sorry, no matter what she does, Lord, I know that, I will be at peace, right? I can get through this. I'm going to do my job well, right? So I just started to change my mind and my thinking. And when I tell you, it all got better. And the more it got better, like the more I wanted to learn about the mind and how to build a healthy mindset. And so the question really has to become like, what does a healthy entrepreneurial mind look like? Right? Because you have to know what practices and what things to do to manage your mind. It's like managing a job, right? Or, raising a child. Like you have to learn how to manage this thing called our mind. And so there's some things that I want to share with you that are attributes or characteristics of an entrepreneur who has a healthy mindset. So that you can know if you're here, okay, maybe I need to work on to get here, right? So the first thing is, um, sorry, first thing is if you're on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, you'll see on the screen is that someone who has a healthy entrepreneur mindset is someone who can change their negative thoughts to positive thoughts quickly, right? And quickly is really the key because we have billions of thoughts that come into our mind like every second, okay? And so either consciously or subconsciously, usually subconsciously is where most of your thoughts come from and what we typically act on, whether we realize it or not. Okay. So let's just say someone um, cuts you off, right? The first thing that's going to come into your mind is like, you're going to want to, fuss or, you know, curse or whatever you do, right? When you get upset. Um, but if you have control and you know how to manage your mindset, what you would quickly be able to do is say, you know what? Okay, maybe that person's going through something. Maybe they're in a rush. Maybe they need to get to the hospital, right? Whatever it is, but you're going to change that mind, that thought into something positive. Because a lot of times, like I told you the example of the woman who, you know, worked with her husband at the job that was toxic. A lot of times people's behaviors have nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with what's going on in their life that you have no privy to, right? And so a lot of times we internalize things and we take things personally, and we don't even know that it may be something someone's going through something that is making them this way, right? Or making them behave this way. And so we have to protect our mind so that we don't get sucked into that toxicity, right? So you have to learn how to change your thoughts quickly. And a healthy entrepreneur who has a healthy mindset does this very well, right? They always look for the good, right? Because they know that most things are not about them. All right. The next thing is someone who has the confidence to ask for what they want. Hence the first story that I shared with you about my experience working, right, in the music industry or interning. Learning to ask for what you want. You got to have that confidence and believing that they already have it when they ask. Right? Now this is biblical. God says that when you send your prayers up to him, believe and know that you have already received it, or you may have heard it this way. Ask, ask and thou shalt receive it, right? Right? So if it's within his will. So you have to believe that when you ask for something, well, first you got to know what you want to be able to ask for it. And then you have to know that when you ask for it, believe that you have it, right? Just like the visualization story that I shared with you about the car. Like I knew I needed a new car and I visualized it. I knew what I wanted. I visualized it and I believed that I could have it. And guess what? I got it, right? So you got to believe that you can have it, right? And that's something that entrepreneurs really embody. Like they have this belief system that like you can't tell me nothing. And I think I have this like attitude, and a lot of people always say to me, like, you're very persistent, you're resourceful and and persistent and I see this in my daughter, um, because I grew up in an era where you had to like work 10 times harder, right, than the average person. And you almost like had to fight your way through just to get the bare minimum. And when you have to go through that, you create a belief system that most people don't believe in themselves, right? And you have to in order to have something, to get something. And so when you believe, you have this belief system, it does not matter what anybody thinks, what anybody says. If you've taken it to God and you believe that you can have it, guess what? You're going to have it. And that is, I think, a skill set and not skill set, but it's a mindset that entrepreneurs have, successful entrepreneurs have, and that they keep very well and manage very well. Okay. All right. The next one is someone who can be positive and even when things aren't going their way. Right. So again, this is managing your mind. And this is something that I learned in my car ride into my toxic job at the time, was that um, when things aren't going your way, that it's important to still stay positive because you are the control of your emotions. Not only just you are the control of your thoughts, but you're the controller of your emotions. So if someone makes you upset, they didn't make you upset. You chose to be upset. And that is such a pivotal mind shift to have. Like, and this is something that entrepreneurs exhibit. Like, they don't believe that life is happening to them. They believe that life is happening for them. And that we have the control. You and I have the control of how we respond to any and everything that happens in our life, right? Somebody could cuss you out. And even in that instance, you still have control to respond, to say, God bless you, to say, I forgive you, to say, God be with you, but to cuss them back out. You have the option, right? And what you choose is really what's going to create the reality and also the consequence or the reaction or the next thing that's going to happen, right? And so we have to be mindful of that. We don't just control our thoughts, but we also control our emotions. All right. The other one is that an entrepreneur who has a healthy mindset is someone who believes that everything is working for their good, even when we deem things as bad things. So even when something happens, maybe you get a bad report you know, um, at the doctors, or something, happens. The way that you perceive it and the way that you look at it makes all the difference. Now, it may seem like a bad situation at that time, but the question that a healthy entrepreneur with a healthy mindset will say is that, you know what, even though this happened, this is what the good that came out of it. This is what I learned from this experience, right? This is maybe how it helps somebody else, right? Or this had to happen to me in order for me to get to the next level. You see the difference in the shift, right? So that's something that you want to practice. And then the next one is someone who knows what their inheritance and their birthright is. So going back to that example that I shared with you about, you know, my supervisor, my manager not giving me a lunch break, right? Now, if I would have known better, I didn't know better then, but now I know better. I know that that was my inheritance, right? In the sense that when I signed that contract, they are supposed to give me an hour or 30-minute lunch break, right? That was my inheritance when I signed that contract. The same way your inheritance from God and your birthright is to be able to express the desires of your heart and go after what you want, right? And as long as it's in his will, you'll have it if you believe that you'll have it, right? So all of these things have to work together. And so I want to leave you with this scripture that I really love. I was only able to add like the first part, but it says, but it's Philippians 4:8. And it says, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent and praiseworthy, think about such things. And this is God's way of, I believe, of sharing that, you know what, regardless of what's going on in your life, focus and meditate and think about the things that are positive, because when you do that, those are the things that will continue to show up in your life, regardless of the noise that's happening, regardless of the person who just cut you off, or if your boss made you upset, or they looked you over for a promotion, or if you just lost your house. Regardless of all of that, think of the things that are positive and that are good, because that is what's going to draw more of that into your life. And remember, like Dr. Omi says, or Crum says, excuse me, we create the reality in our lives based on our thoughts. So if you're only thinking about negative things, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have a negative life. You're going to have draw more negative things to you. But if you focus on the things that are positive, right? That's where you find peace and you find happiness. And that's how I was able to every single day drive into that parking lot, Lord Jesus knows, and not catch a felony, not catch not like just go in there with my head high, do my job, get my paycheck, right? And still have my mind and be happy and blissful. And I think that's one of the things that the devil hates. And I think that's why that lady, like, she was so distraught, because we always came with a level of excellence. I'm talking about me and my coworker who were there at the time. And we just always showed up with a level of excellence, a level of professionalism, despite her attitude, despite what she had to try to say or do. Um, and here's the glory in it all. We had our mind, we were at peace, we were happy. We'd be skipping out the door to go to lunch, okay? And have a good time and come back and have, just still be at peace. And it was all because I learned how to control my mind, and by doing that, I learned how to control my emotions. So no matter what she said, what anybody did, whatever happened in the office, I don't care. They could have told me. I mean, I actually wanted her to fire me a long time ago, way before she did. So like that didn't phase me either. But no matter what happened in my mind, I had built up such a strong mindset. I had exercised that muscle that nothing she could have done, nothing could have happened that would have taken my peace or my joy. And that is where I am in my life today. And my hope and my goal is to help you and others get to that point where you can create a strong mindset, because it's so important. Because when you step into entrepreneurship, and I'm bringing this full circle, right? Why we're even having this discussion. When you go from being an employee and working for somebody, right? And you go into entrepreneurship, there are some beautiful things about entrepreneurship, which I just love talking about. We're going to talk about that in the future, but there also are going to be some tough times, right? So as a coach, it's my responsibility to give you everything, right? Not just sugarcoat everything and just say, hey, come on over here to the entrepreneur world. Like, no, it's great. It's real great. It's real good. But you got to be ready for those storms. And that is where having a strong mindset comes in. Because if you're ready, it's like, if you're ready, you're ready. Like they say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right? It's not a problem. So when things come up, when the money doesn't come in, when you don't get the clients in a month and you have no money to pay your bills, guess what happens? That mindset has to kick in. That, you know what? Okay, maybe I didn't get it this month. It's coming. It's gonna be here. It's gonna be here right on time. Now you see how like that mindset versus, oh my God, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I might have to go back and get a job. Like, right? Like I can tell you so many stories of I've gone through dry months. And because I had a healthy mindset, like it got me through that. And God always provided, right? But in the midst of him providing, I was not stressed. I was not depressed. I have gone through my times, but what I'm saying is those having a strong mindset and a healthy mindset helped me get through those times and helped me to see, right, what my inheritance is and what my birthright is. So regardless of what it seems like is happening, right, I know that it's all good. And you have to have that as an entrepreneur because you're not getting a steady paycheck every 2 weeks. And I'm not even just talking about money, but money is a big part of the downfall of entrepreneurs because it's the biggest transition and change that you experience when you go from an employee to an entrepreneur, meaning you don't get that paycheck every 2 weeks, right? You got to actually work for the dollar, right? And it's not guaranteed. And it might not come when you're expecting it to come or when you want it to come, but you have to have a belief system and a mindset that it's going to come right on time. And I can tell you that it always comes on time when you have a belief system and when you have a mindset that is of God and that is powerful and that allows you to stay in a state of belief and gratitude and expectancy, meaning you expect, right, to get everything that you need. Sorry, guys. So I want to leave you with that. And I hope this is helpful. I think that this is something that is so consequential to your success. If you are starting a business or thinking about starting a business, or maybe you've started one and you're, hitting some of those speed bumps in the road, that this is what changes the game. It's the thing that I go back to even now. I've been an entrepreneur for over 12 years. And it's the thing that I go back to. Like when I can tell like when I start worrying about things or things aren't going right, I always check my mind. I'm like, what are you thinking about, Monique? What are you telling yourself? I get heavy back into my Bible. I start praying more. I start making sure that every time I wake up and I do my daily practice, because that is the thing that keeps me going and that really helps anchor me, right? So this is so powerful. I hope this has helped you. I want to share a couple of announcements before we go. So I want to give you something that's going to help you. Thank you, Sandy. Sandy says, and then I want to open up for questions too, and then let you go. So first things first is I do have something for you. If you are thinking about starting a business, if you are thinking about stepping into entrepreneurship, I have a plan for you that's going to help you navigate that transition. I think it's so important to know what are the things you need to do now as before you get the business off the ground, or before you just leave your job, or if that's what you plan to do. Like I'm an advocate of, look, if you can do both, do both. But if your desire is to transition fully into entrepreneurship, that's great. But I want to make sure that you're equipped to do that in a healthy, smart, and responsible way, right? Because I am so about like ushering people into and helping you get into entrepreneurship, but I don't want you to do it if you're stressed, if you are, not prepared, right? Entrepreneurship is a blessing, and it's the thing that I think can change your life if you're someone who wants autonomy, who wants to be able to live and create the life that you want. Now, let me just say this. There are a lot of people in this world, probably about 95%, I say about 90%. The other 5% are part of like the top 1%, right? Um, I would say about 90% of people who go through life and they are content with going to their job every day, and maybe they're climbing the corporate ladder. That's great. And we need people in the workforce, because there needs to be a balance. Everybody can't be an entrepreneur, right? So for those people, I say great. Like, we're so happy to have you. But for the people that I'm assigned to help, are those who want to have an unconventional life, meaning, it's not the everyday go to your job and, live your life. It's the person who says, hey, I've got something that is creative. I want to do something, or something that God has gifted me to do to help others. Like, this is my calling, this is my purpose. Like, and you're looking to step into that. That's who I'm assigned to serve. And so I want to serve you with this employee to transition. Excuse me, it's called the Employee to CEO Transition Plan. And what it is a 6-step PDF where I walk you through everything you need to do step by step. These are the same steps that I took to prepare yourself for entrepreneurship. Okay. And this is great for even if you've started the business. If you're, like I said, if you're, experiencing some challenges, you can still use this plan to really help you to navigate entrepreneurship. So it's free. I want to give that to you. So if you you can grab it on my website at Monique Nicole .co, etc plan. I think that's it. Yeah, so you can see it scrolling across the bottom of the screen if you're on Facebook or YouTube or or LinkedIn. Okay, so you can grab it there. Just put your name in. You just need to put your first name and email address, and then I will email that to you. Okay. The other thing I want to share with you is, for those of you who are interested in getting some one-on-one or group coaching support from me, I do have, we have opened enrollment right now, which I'm super excited about because we actually extended it. I got quite a few people saying, hey, can we have a little bit more time so we can get our funds together? So I have granted that request. And so open enrollment has been extended to May 10th. So you have until, what is that, next week, next Friday, I think it is, May 10th to join. And there's 2 courses that are available that you can join. The first one is the Employee to Designer course. And that is my legacy course. I have been teaching that course for many, many years to emerging interior design professionals. So if that's your thing, if that's your space, most of you know my story. I started my business in interior design. I ran a 6-figure business for over, 10 years. It doesn't seem that long, but yeah, that was my first business. And so if that's your industry, I have a course specifically tailored for you. And I would love to serve you and coach you through that process. If you are someone who wants to just start a service-based business in any industry, we also have a course for you as well. It's called the Employee to Founder course. So you can learn all about it if you go to moniquenicole.co, coaching, and all of the information is there. Early enrollment closes May 10th. And basically that just means that that's when you can enroll into one of the courses and get the bonus that we have available, which is our private one-on-one coaching session with one of the best personal stylists in the game, Miss Shannon at the Closet Consultant, which is her Instagram handle. So if you want to follow her and check her out, but you'll get a private coaching session with her. She's going to help you get your personal style, your personal brand together. And we also give you a style guide with outfit suggestions that will help enhance your body type, and just like the whole kind of thing that will help you to show up as your best self when you step into entrepreneurship. So I really want to bless you with that. So if you are thinking about joining one of the courses, definitely take advantage of that before it ends, before the bonus goes away, which is on May 10th. Okay, May 10th. We start the course on May 15th. Okay. Now, the great thing about these courses, though, we start on May 15th as a group, and there's some exciting things coming up. So you do want to join before the 10th if you want to get the bonus, but also before we start on May 15th, because we also have a book club. So we're going to be reading this book called The Magic of Thinking Big. And this is why we are talking about mindset, because it's super important. But we're going to be reading this book. So if you want to join in with us, it is super powerful. I've done run several book clubs before, and I mean, we have a great time. We read a couple chapters a week, then we come together and we talk about it. We highlight, what our favorite parts are in the book. We learn together. It's so great to hear different people's perspectives based on the same thing that we're reading, if that makes sense. So we're going to be reading this book. So you have some time. It's by David Schwartz, The Magic of Thinking Big. So get your book, join, go to moniquenicole.co/coaching, and you can learn about all the courses and sign up and join us. I'd love to have you. We're going to have a great time. And the last thing I want to share is, and let me see if I can do this. I do want to invite you to okay, yes, okay. No. Here we go. Okay, so I want to share invite you to our members club. So we have a private members club that is completely free to join. And it's where we come together every day. I pop in there daily and share business tips to help you grow as an entrepreneur. And it's just a really great community. You can, connect with other women in the community. And so I want to invite you to that. You can sign up for this on our website. And yeah, it's a free community. And I just know the community is so important, especially on this journey of entrepreneurship, because it can be very, very lonely. It can be very, very lonely. So, you know, you want to, you need to have community. Like, gosh, I still talk to some of my friends in the music industry, and hence shout out to Ish. Shout out to my girl Shantae. There's a lot of people I keep in touch with. Even if we don't talk every day, like, we have this sense of community, because as entrepreneurs, it's tough. Like, people don't live our lives, right? And you got to have people you can go to who are on the same journey as you and who are doing the things you are doing. All right. So I want to encourage you to join. It's free. Let me take this down. So join if you want to. That's our professional level membership, and you can just be a part of the community. You don't have to join the course, but you can join us and start learning about this journey. All right, so that's all I have today. I'm sorry I kept you guys a little longer than I wanted to, but any questions? I want to just open it up for questions. I know, let me see if someone had questions or comments. Okay, see any questions here? Yes, Sandy said, wow, I know that feeling of working with those types of people. Yes, toxic. Yep, they can be narcissists too. Absolutely. Thank you. All right, so I don't see any questions. If anyone does have questions, go ahead and type it now. Otherwise, I'm going to give you your afternoon back. And I want to thank you for joining me. If you found value in this, even if you're watching the replay, please comment. It really helps me to know, like, if, doing these lives and teaching this content, is valuable to you. And so please let me know, and I will keep it coming. Okay. But I just want to know if it's helpful. And if you have not subscribed to the podcast, please subscribe to the podcast, the Employee to CEO podcast. You can find it at Monique Nicole Co on YouTube. And yeah, I'm dropping a new episode every Thursday at 10 a.m. So subscribe to it if you have the Apple Podcast or maybe you have Spotify. It's great. Like I listen to podcasts as I'm doing my morning walks, and it's amazing. Okay, I learn something new, and then I can go and apply it to my business. So that's the goal with the Employee to CEO podcast, that you learn something, I teach you something that you can apply to your life or your business. So yeah, I want to invite you to subscribe and join me on that. And if I don't see any other questions, we are going to end this. So this was a lot of fun. I hope that you enjoyed it. I don't see any questions. All right. So you guys have a wonderful afternoon. I look forward to seeing you next week. We're going to do this again. I'm going to drop the episode on Thursday, and then same time on Friday at 12 o'clock, I'm going to come on live and share, answer any questions that you have on the podcast from the podcast. And then also I'll probably share something new for you to learn to help you on your entrepreneurial journey. All right. So until then, have a wonderful weekend. Happy Friday. And I will see you next week. Cheers.